Hey everyone, this is Michelle from Careertopia, and I am here at the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix with Emily Morris. And welcome, Emily.
Thank you.
And Emily's going to share with us a little bit about the garden and what they do here. And then I'm going to go through a bunch of questions I have for her based on some eavesdropping I did a few weeks ago when I was in one of her classes that made me realize she'd be a really good subject for our interview series. So let's get started. Thanks for being with us today, Emily.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is really fun.
Cool. Well, why don't you start out by giving, now not everyone listening to this is from Phoenix or even going to know anything about the Desert Botanical Garden. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your objective here and what the garden provides for its visitors?
Okay, yeah, I can definitely do that. So the garden is 75 years old this year, and it is a botanical garden, so that means that it has a collection, what we call a living collection, so a collection of rare and then not so rare plants that are here for research and conservation, and then also for beauty. And so people can come and visit the garden for those main purposes, but then also we have an educational component and an exhibits component. So the exhibits is about kind of art and music. We kind of want to do a sneak attack where people come to the garden and they think that plants maybe are boring, but then they come here for some other reason and they realize that they're really interesting. So research, education, exhibits, and conservation are our four main tenets.
Well, and your mention of the people who think plants aren't maybe all that interesting but still enjoy the beauty, that's what got me here. And I've been here for events, especially the music related events, and then I've just fallen in love with the place to the point that my friends look at my Facebook feed and go, she's there again? What could be so great about that place? And it really does have a lot to offer. So fantastic. Thank you. You were kind enough to share your resume with me in advance of this, and I looked over and saw your work history. So I have an idea of how I would describe your career, but I'm interested in how you would summarize or describe your career so far.
Yeah, so I double majored in a extremely liberal arts degree of environmental studies and art history. That was the kind of really, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked learning about things. And I've always loved nature and science. Both of my parents are teachers, and I had been in long time denial that I would ever do anything with education because of that. And then right after college, I was pointed in the direction of a kind of what started me off, which is field biology. Which is where you go into the middle of nowhere and you get paid normally very little, but you get money and the experience to live in these most beautiful places. And I worked collecting plant and animal data straight from the source, outside all the time. And I traveled around and I did that for a couple of years. And then I met my fiance, and we decided to move to Phoenix for his PhD. And at that point, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I wanted to educate people through writing. And then I discovered that that was far more difficult than worked for my skills, and didn't really like this kind of sitting at home alone and writing and rewriting. I like people too much, so I kind of stumbled into maybe I wanted to do environmental education. So I looked around and I happened upon a job in environmental education, which I really had no idea what I was getting myself into, but that was at the Audubon Center in South Phoenix, which is an urban environmental education center that's part of the National Audubon Society. And I worked there for 2.5 years, and then I made the hard decision, because I loved it at Audubon but wanted something a little bit different, and I came to the Botanical Garden, where I also do environmental education.
Excellent. So you hopping into the education angle, was that a result of in your industry to get out of field and grant type of work and to have a more traditionally secure position? Is that a not a requirement, but is that a theme within your industry to take on the education piece, or was that like a more of a personal drive, like an internal drive you realized you needed to share?
It was definitely personal, because there are a lot of different ways I could have gone with my background in field biology. I could have gone a more sciencey route or policy, but for me personally, my passion is sharing nature with lay people. And I had thought that those lay people were going to be adults, but then when I started working at Audubon, I quickly found that I love children.
And is it maybe the children are more openly excited about the learning?
Yes. Most people say that, I have had other people say about me, and I think this is true, that my enthusiasm is one of the things that makes me good at my job. And I find that I share that with children, because they aren't afraid to get super excited about something small that maybe an adult would hold back a little bit from.
A little more reserved. Right?
Yes.
Right. That's fun. Well, one of the core concepts that we teach at Careertopia is the power of having a strong sense of self-awareness, understanding your natural propensities and what motivates you, what your strengths are, and that all that is crucial to finding your own Careertopia. So do you agree regarding the power of self-awareness? Has that helped you throughout your decision making?
Yes, it definitely has, but I'm not sure that I've been consciously aware of that. I think maybe I would have gotten to where I am maybe a bit faster if I had consciously thought about what my strengths are. Before I started working at Audubon, I was definitely feeling pretty lost, that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was kind of wandering around and trying little volunteer things. And if I had known that I really liked education, and maybe I had volunteered doing some educational things, I would have found that much faster and realized that my strengths lie in the enthusiasm and the connecting children with nature.
So it's clear that your current role is a particularly good fit for you between your strengths and your skills and your personal propensities. Have you ever had a particularly bad fit? And so if the answer is yes, you don't need to share with me which role that was if that's not appropriate. But what I'm interested in is what about that role might not have fit you as well, and why?
So I haven't had a particularly bad fit in environmental education. Before, while I was just wondering what I wanted to do, I worked at a call center, and you can imagine that was not a great fit for me. I really need something that's varied and challenging, and as much as I value the fact that it was a secure job right when the market died, my brain was rotting away. And so I think this could apply to if I had another job that was the same every day and didn't challenge me and push me. I really need something that's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's where I think I do the best, and where I'm constantly having to push myself to learn more and do different things.
To keep you interested and engaged.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
The other thing also that I have learned in several jobs is that I do best under a boss that doesn't micromanage. I like them to know what's going on, and my boss here is particularly great at that. But I like the freedom to be trusted to do a lot of things without having to check in all the time. I find that very efficient to be able to just work by myself and then just check in and say, hey, I'm doing this, 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 and this. And then she'll say, oh, this is great. Oh, have you thought about this other thing? And that's a really great partnership.
Yeah, and that makes or breaks things at times.
Yes,
So
definitely.
that's a real biggie. Excellent. Well, what do you like best about your job now? Is it that freedom, or
Um, it's it's probably the varied nature of it is what I like the best. Um, and it's because I run all the what we call informal education programs. So that covers, I'm going to give you my little list. That covers preschool, homeschool, family classes, summer camp, festivals, and teens. And so I I run programs for, and we're soon going to be starting a program for babies.
wow?
So I will be running programs for basically like 2 years old through 18. And because of that, you can imagine it's just something different every day. Um, and then I also like connecting all of those programs to the big picture of connecting children to nature, which that phrase is kind of my passion.
Well, at Careertopia, we help people understand themselves better and how to understand others so that they can interact more effectively. But then a biggie is how to show them about building effective relationships to help their career. So in your industry and career, how important have you found relationships to be?
I have found them to be the most important thing. And so, firstly, I've been trying to impress on like our teen program that um, communication skills are the most difficult and the most important thing that they will have in any job. I don't care what it is. Every job I've had, communication skills can make or break your job, and they're the most frustrating and the most rewarding thing that I find. And then more specifically for me, I didn't really realize that I was doing this in terms of networking, but I think when I was feeling a bit lost, I started to network. I wasn't thinking to myself, yes, I need to meet all these people and then they'll point me in the right direction. But I think subconsciously, I thought, oh, this person, I find them interesting. I want to talk to them more. And so I think it's important to get out into the community and meet people. And I met a woman. I was out on a bird walk, and I met a woman who heads up the environmental education. There's a couple of classes that she does at Arizona State University. So I met her, and she gave me her card. I went in to chat with her. She told me about the opening at Audubon. So if I hadn't been out and going on that bird walk, I wouldn't have met her. And so I think just getting out and doing the things that you like, you'll meet other people who also do the things that you're passionate about.
I would agree completely. And every person that I talk to on this topic, well, I'm finding that the people who enjoy what they do and are enthused about it and have that natural enthusiasm, they all say, well, yeah, I network, but it's not really networking. I'm just, being curious and interested, and that's really what it should be. And I like to talk about non-icky networking because we tend to think of it as a chore, it's stereotypically a chore, but it doesn't have to be. If things are aligned, then it's not really effort. It's just meeting people and having conversations, and it's not manipulation or investing, putting coins in the bank that you're going to withdraw later, or none of that, mental exercise behind. It's just enjoying, interaction with somebody.
Definitely. If I had to do the icky networking, I'm kind of awkward, and I would not be good at it.
Excellent. Well, back to my eavesdropping in that class. You were sharing with another family your enthusiasm for what you do. And so I was wondering if along the way, during your career, as you were going from one spot to another, kind of figuring it out, was there ever a point where you had an aha moment that you knew this is it and this is what I'm meant to do?
Yep. I'm sure I've had quite a few of these little moments, but this is a story I always tell because it's definitely very powerful. So it was when I was working at Audubon, Arizona, in this South Phoenix community, and I was doing an after-school program with a group of inner city kids. And what I found really powerful about those programs is that a lot of these kids had never been outside for more than 20 minutes. They'd never looked at anything.
Wow.
They never felt safe outside. Just on and on, these amazing experiences to be able to take those kids outside. And so we were doing a program where we were going to be doing a thing called pond dipping, where you go around the edge of a pond and you use nets and sieves and stuff to look at the small, what we call macroinvertebrates, so small animals living in the pond, what we would find. And so I said to the kids, okay, and I had never said this phrase before, but now I always say it. I said, today we are going to be scientists, and we are going to look in the pond, and we're going to see what we can find, and what we find will tell us about the health of the water. And so this one little girl, I was really surprised, took me back because she looked terrified and said, there's no way I can do that. I cannot do that. I'm terrified of the water and the plants. How can I do that? I said, it's okay. We're going to do it all together. Don't worry. And she said, oh, okay. So we go outside and we start doing pond dipping. And this is what always happens. They're a little bit afraid of the mud and stuff. But then 2 minutes later, they're arm deep in all the water by the edge of the pond. And so then they find all these things. And we found that the pond was really good quality water because there's dragonfly larvae living in there. And they found a dragonfly larva. It was great. So then at the end of the day, I always ask the kids, what is one thing that you learned today? And they go around, they say, oh, I learned that you can tell water quality, or I learned what a dragonfly larva looks like, these little things. And this little girl, she said, today I learned that I could be a scientist.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yes, it gives me goosebumps every time I tell it, gets me emotional every time I tell it, and that is why I do what I do.
Right, because that wasn't even in her realm of possibility.
Right. To think I could be a scientist.
My last question for you is more specific to the garden, and I will go visit it after you answer the question. Where is your favorite spot in the garden?
I have a couple of favorites, which I know is not the definition of the word favorite.
I'll give you some leeway.
But okay. I always have multiple favorites of things. I have like 80 favorite birds. So one favorite spot is the herb garden, or the Center for Desert Living, we also call it. And I really like how you walk in there and the air changes. It's moister and it's really fragrant. And kind of somehow, even though it's just part of the garden, it's tucked up on the side and it's quieter. That's one of my favorite places. And then I also like the Plants and People Trail, which is somewhat less manicured than the rest of the garden and has lots of saguaros, and it also goes down by our pond, so that has our bigger trees, and great horned owls are always down there, and lots of other birds, and so I like that area as well. And then one last place, I also like the Wildflower Trail, particularly in the spring, because it is full of wildflowers, and it's one of the birdiest places in the garden, often just because of the wildflowers and all the seeds, and so you can often see tons of birds there.
Great. Well, this morning, I would go check out the herb garden. I've never been there.
Oh, good.
So cool. Well, thanks so much for meeting with me today and taking time to chat, and I think you had a lot of good info that will help our readers and listeners, and just thanks for your time today.
It was my pleasure. It was really fun.